Joe Healy here with a Sunday edition of Weekend Waypoints. Going to take a look at Saturday's action around the SEC and look ahead to Sunday in the conference. Our first Sunday edition here of Weekend Waypoints. Going to set the table for the final day of this weekend, although opening weekend's a little wonky, not entirely the last day of the weekend. I know LSU's got a Monday game. And then around the country, there's just a decent bit of Monday action. Excuse me. Decent bit of Monday action around the country. So opening weekend's a little bit wonky in that way, but traditionally last day of the weekend here. So we're going to get you ready for all of it. First, we're going to take a look back at Saturday, of course, and I've got the scoreboard here pulled up from yesterday in the SEC. And until about 7 o'clock Eastern time, I was driving home from Spartanburg, having watched Kentucky get that win over USC Upstate yesterday, and was thinking, oh, well, this was pretty mild Saturday. After a wild Friday, this Saturday felt fairly mild. By that point, okay, FAU had beaten Vanderbilt, but that's a close game, and clearly the Owls showed the day before they were going to be competitive in that series. So that didn't necessarily jump out to me right away. But then you look at the wins here. We've got Missouri over Cal Poly, South Carolina, pretty routine win over Miami, Ohio, Kentucky, Auburn. Low scoring for LSU, but the pitching did the job there. Blowouts for Alabama and Arkansas. Texas A&M handled McNeese again. Georgia blew out UNC Asheville. But then things started to turn a little bit in the evening, and I think that the turning point was really that Mississippi State loss to Air Force. I actually listened to a lot of this game as I was driving from Spartanburg back home. And just, a low-scoring game, pitched well. Cal Steven, we'll talk about him in a minute, but Cal Steven was excellent in his first start in a Mississippi State uniform, but some old issues from last year cropped up for Mississippi State, namely free passes on the mound. Colby Holcomb comes in and, ends up, gets out of a jam, but then ends up coming back in and walking a couple of guys. And that's what ended up coming back to bite them. And Air Force kind of gets a seeing eye single to drive in 2 runs to go from down 2-1 to up 3-2. And that was kind of all she wrote there. So a tough loss there, but then you pair that with, Ole Miss dropping a 9-1 decision at Hawaii after winning the first game of the day 5-2, and then Tennessee taking a tough loss to Oklahoma. I mean, there's no shame obviously in that. We know Oklahoma's a talented ball club, but to get that game to 10 innings and then to lose it 5-1 is tough, obviously. So things took a little bit of a turn there late in the day for the SEC. Still a good Saturday. A lot of teams getting back on track after kind of dodgy starts to the season. That had to feel pretty good there. So let's do a little more in-depth recap of what happened here and start with the game of the day. I'm going to go with that Oklahoma-Tennessee game. Obviously didn't go the way of the SEC club in this one, but this game had a little bit of everything here. Let me stop my screen share and then reshare. I've got the box pulled up here so we can kind of follow along as I talk about it a little bit. Let's see if that pulled up. Okay. So yeah, 5-1 in 10 innings, Oklahoma over Tennessee, but this game really did have everything. It had Drew Beam pitching well. That's no real shock, but you saw Drew Beam being Drew Beam. Good stuff. Worked around some base runners. He's never going to be, the dominant guy that we saw with Dolander at his best or even Burns at his best. He's going to allow some base runners, but he expertly works around them. So he did more of that. It's a great atmosphere. I was writing during some of this game, but I had it on, so the volume was down. But every time I turned the volume up, it sounded like a great atmosphere, and that was fitting of the Saturday night showcase game in Arlington. We also had an incredible triple play turned by Chris Stamos, a relief pitcher for Tennessee, diving off the mound to go, get a ball that, was kind of in that no man's land between the mound, the plate and third base, and then, flipped it towards second base, a double off a runner, and then the third runner got tagged out because he was standing over by second base. Find that highlight if you haven't seen it. It's all over social media. It shouldn't take you too long to find it. Just go to, Tennessee's baseball Twitter. I'm sure it's there. But it really had a lot of excitement, had a lot of things going for it. It showed a couple of things I think about Tennessee. One is that, and we knew this, but one is that they're going to be in every game Drew Beam starts. That's the starting point for them. That's a huge luxury they have, holding Oklahoma to the 1 run for 5 2/3 innings that Beam was in the game. An excellent effort there. But it also showed they do still have some things to figure out in the bullpen. So, you scroll down here and, Marcus Phillips was the first arm out. When he got a big strikeout, but then you see that he also walked too and hit a batter. And, I saw him in the fall when they played Virginia Tech in the fall. And look, it's a big arm. Like, there's no doubting about that. I mean, he could be a big time back end bullpen option if he can stay in the strike zone and harness his stuff, because it is a lot of arm strength that is really good stuff. So that's a question there. Now, Stamos threw a good inning there, and then Aaron Combs kind of got. I'm not too worried about that. I mean, Aaron Combs is more proven than a lot of these guys. So I still think he's going to be a key piece of the puzzle, but you'd like him to be in the zone a little more. You see the 3 walks there in 2 1/3. So that's where that kind of went awry there. And then a couple freshmen, Matthew Dallas, Derek Schaefer, Dallas, obviously just the one batter, but clearly still a bit of a bullpen situation that Tennessee is trying to sort out. And we knew this was going to be a little bit of a question going into the year, especially when you take AJ Russell out of the bullpen mix and move him to the rotation. So, interesting to see how this gets dealt with moving forward. I imagine we will see a lot of different iterations moving forward until we get to SEC play before they really want to kind of, codify some of those bullpen roles. So good game there. Nothing to hang their heads about, obviously. Tennessee, I mean, you would have liked to have seen a little more offense, but man, Oklahoma is running out some big arms too. I mean, Brendan Girton has good stuff. Kyson Witherspoon, he is one of 2 brothers who pitches for Oklahoma, and both just have crazy good stuff. So, yes, you would have liked to have seen more offense if you're Tennessee, but I don't know. Games like this are going to happen against good pitching, and so there's that. I suspect Tennessee plays Baylor tonight at 7:30 Eastern. I suspect they will bounce back in a big way against a Baylor team that has been competitive this weekend in Arlington, maybe more so than I anticipated them being. But I think Tennessee, they're not going to be a match for Tennessee, is my anticipation. We, of course, we'll see about that. Let's move on to talking about the player of the day. A lot of good candidates here. Ethan Petrie, 2 home runs for South Carolina. TJ McCants, another nice game. He's having a really nice weekend for Alabama, 3 for 4 with 2 doubles. Ty Wilmsmeyer, 3 for 5, home run, 5 RBIs for Arkansas. That's the Missouri transfer now in the Arkansas outfield. Logan Jordan, 2 home runs for Georgia. Dylan Goldstein of Georgia, 3 for 4 with a home run and 5 RBIs. Really, the whole Georgia offense there. Fernando Gonzalez had a nice game. Just a really, really big offensive performance for the Bulldogs in that game against UNC Asheville. But I'm actually going to go with Jarrett Curtis from Missouri, maybe a guy you haven't heard a ton about. He's a Texas Tech transfer, plays in the outfield for Missouri, and this is not hyperbole. I promise you this is true. He very likely is the fastest guy in the SEC. When he was coming out of high school and he was at the MLB draft combine, he was the fastest runner there. So look, I mean, maybe there is somebody in the league that could match him, but there's certainly the list is short, and I would bet he's the fastest guy in the league. The issue, and this was the case at Texas Tech in a small sample last year, the issue is how much is he going to hit to allow him to get on base to make use of his speed. Yesterday against Cal Poly, 3 for 4, a double, a triple, and a walk. So getting on base four times out of his 5 trips to the plate, that's obviously going to play. Now, it's 1 game sample, I get it, but I do think it shows that, hey, this is a guy that does have ability. He does have some raw strength. It's not just a slap hitter guy. He does have some raw strength in his swing. And if he gets on base, he's going to be a really good catalyst in this league. And Missouri just, they're a little bit of a mystery team. Mark and I talked about that in our Missouri preview podcast episode, that they're a little bit of a mystery team. And we're going to learn a lot about this team as the season goes on, because it's a bunch of names we don't know yet. And Jarrett Curtis is one of the most exciting on the roster. So a heck of a game for him. Missouri needed it. They got that win over Cal Poly 12-8. TBD on today out there in San Luis Obispo. Typically a place where the weather's going to be great, but it's been a little bit of a rainy few weeks out there on the Central Coast, and they're expecting more rain today, but we'll have to see. Okay, pitcher of the day. A lot of good candidates here as well. I talked about Cal Steven, just quickly on him. I saw him in the Cape, and I thought, okay, good stuff. He looks the part. it just kind of looked like he had trouble putting batters away. And then you look back at his stats at Purdue, and that was kind of the case there. His strikeout numbers didn't necessarily match the level of stuff that he had. And so I was kind of interested to see, okay, how is that going to translate? And now we do still need to see how it translates against SEC hitters, but we've talked about this the last 2 episodes of this show. Air Force can hit. I mean, that's it's not an SEC level offense, of course, but they've got hitters. So what he did there was impressive. 7 innings pitched, 11 strikeouts, a lot of missed bats for Cal Steven. So that's what State is going to need. They have that box pulled up here. Let me pull that one up. Yeah, so Steven, because I was looking to see, okay, yeah, 3 hits, 1 run for Steven, but no walks, 11 strikeouts. Obviously that plays. And that's gonna be huge. If you could start to, have a guy like him who you can pair with Nate Dome, you've still got questions about some aspects of this team, but you're starting to build towards something that feels, more competitive on a week in, week out basis for the Bulldogs. So that was certainly, if you're a Bulldog, the Bulldog faithful, you have to feel a little more confident about what you saw there. Luke Holman, LSU debut, 5 2/3 innings, 10 strikeouts, and that narrow 2-0 win over Central Arkansas. And look, in the preseason, if you read some of our preview content at SEC Extra, listened to our preview podcast of LSU, you know that it's going to look a little different this year. And I think you saw that yesterday in a 2-0 win over Central Arkansas. The good news is they had Luke Holman and others ready to go, and Holman was excellent in his first start in a Tigers uniform. Shout out to Dominic Nyman, Central Connecticut State transfer at Kentucky, got the start yesterday. 5 scoreless innings for him. Looked really, really good. Kentucky came into the season kind of looking for who that third guy in the rotation would be next to Travis Smith and Mason Moore. TBD on he's going to have to continue to prove it. But, in start number 1, Nyman certainly looked the part. But this award is actually going to go to Joseph Gonzalez of Auburn. And, he didn't have the best numbers yesterday of everybody, but for what he potentially means to his team, I think we have to go with Joseph Gonzalez. Last year made just 1 start and then kind of had a very nebulous injury situation where, he went down, and then for a while it was kind of like, it felt just like kicking the can down the road. We'll check him again in a couple weeks. Oh, we're going to, a couple more weeks. And then eventually at a certain point, he just kind of got shut down, and they were taking it easy with him. Leading up to this season, or had a very structured, I should say, it wasn't necessarily taking it easy. It was a very structured preparation for him coming into this season to try to maximize the possibility that he'd be healthy. And look, it's only 1 start, but looked good in the start yesterday, came out of it healthy, got stretched out a little bit. It wasn't just like a, 2 innings and out kind of thing. So that's really huge because Auburn, the best version of Auburn this year, and I still think they'd be, even without him. I mean, they proved last year they can win big without him, but with him, Auburn's obviously a lot more dangerous, just given his pedigree. I think it's easy to forget now, but 2 years ago, he was the most dependable guy on a team that got to Omaha, and then he pitched for Team USA over the summer. So clearly it's a guy you want in your rotation if he's going to be healthy. So congrats to Joseph Gonzalez for getting back healthy. I think even fans of rival teams can appreciate, how big it is and how important that must have been to him personally, in addition to for Auburn and on a team perspective. Let's talk a little bit about games to watch today. I was going to put Florida and St. John's on here again. If you watched the episode yesterday, you heard me talk about how that was going to be the game I chose because Liam Peterson was going to pitch and Florida's trying to bounce back against St. John's. That game got canceled. Today's game is not looking good, and if I look distracted on my screen, it's because I'm trying to look real quick to see if it has been canceled since I went live. No, not officially yet, but I'm here to tell you I would be, and I'd love to be shocked, but I would be shocked if they play this game today. A lot of other games in Florida have already been pushed or canceled, and they don't have much of a time window here. Shout out to Jacob Rudner of 247 Sports, covers the Gators for them. He tweeted a little bit earlier this morning that St. John's has to fly out tonight or this afternoon, so they can't push this game back forever and ever. So they're going to have to make a call pretty quickly, and I just don't see any scenario where they end up playing this game. But hey, like I said, I'd love to be surprised because it means we might get to see maybe both of Jack Caglione and Liam Peterson pitch, but it looks more likely that their season debuts and career debut for Peterson are going to be pushed into the midweek or next weekend or what have you. So that's a bummer. So instead, game of the day for me is FAU at Vanderbilt. Man, FAU has been in this series for every second. There's never been one moment in this series where they've looked overmatched by the Commodores. And then yesterday got a 5-4 win, and it's like a pretty straight up win. And by that I mean just it wasn't. I mean, yes, they continue to get some bad ball luck. I mean, balls that aren't hit hard finding grass, but that's baseball. But what I mean by that is it's not like they're out there and fluky things are happening and just stuff you could have never predicted. I mean, they're just out there playing and they're competing. And also kudos to them because, Florida Atlantic, if you don't know, is in Boca Raton, South Florida, where I have to imagine the weather is, well, probably rainy considering it's Florida this weekend, but probably warm. And yesterday, I think I saw first pitch was around 32 degrees in Nashville. So a shout out to FAU for dealing with conditions that, frankly, they're not really used to. Typically, teams are trying to escape to a place like Boca Raton at this time of year to play baseball games. FAU actually went to less hospitable weather to play baseball games, and now they're in a position to maybe win that series. So I'll be eagerly watching that game at 3 Eastern this afternoon. Okay, let's wrap up with some plugs real quick. First of all, thank you for watching our first Sunday edition of Weekend Waypoints. I've had a lot of fun with the show the last few days. Looking forward to continuing it at least throughout the regular season. Once we get to the postseason, we'll see what the schedule looks like because the schedule gets wonky and weird, and we're no longer just looking at weekends. You know how it goes. I published a story on Dominic Nyman's start from Kentucky yesterday. Go check that out at SEC Extra. Also mentioned just the bullpen in that story. Ryan Hagenow, really good yesterday for Kentucky. Johnny Hummel, a Division II transfer closer that they brought in, looked really sharp. Interested to see how that continues this season. Kendall Rogers was in Arlington and wrote about that the Tennessee-Oklahoma game. Obviously, if you're a Tennessee fan, it didn't go the way you want, but Kendall's got kind of a wrap up on that if you're interested, or if you're an Oklahoma fan, kind of getting ready to move into the SEC, that might be of interest to you. My colleague at SEC Extra, Mark Etheridge, wrote about the difficult loss for Mississippi State. So again, state fans might just decide to kind of pass on that. And I get it if that's the way you want to approach it. But, Mark's always got good perspective. He's got a strong voice and understands the SEC, the psyche of the SEC. And so, even if you're not happy with the way the game went yesterday, and how could you be, might be an enlightening read to kind of get a feel for everything happening there at Mississippi State from Mark. Of course, the D1 Digest, that is available at d1baseball.com on the main site. Like I said yesterday, grab your, almost 11 a.m. Eastern here as I record. So if you're in the Eastern time zone, maybe grab a little something for a brunch situation, grab a glass of water, grab a cup of coffee, tea, whatever it is you drink in the morning, sit down with it. Or if you're a little bit further, if you're in the Central, Mountain, or Western Pacific time zones, grab your breakfast, whatever it is, and sit down with D1 Digest and get caught up on everything that happened around the entire country yesterday. And then finally, one more day on the 24 season coupon code. Again, 24 season at checkout to get 24% off of an annual subscription. That runs through today, the end of the day today. So if you're on the fence, have not subscribed, you can use that to either subscribe to the main D1 baseball site or to SEC Extra with Mark Etheridge and I. Either way, we would appreciate you jumping in. This is the best time of year to jump in. Opening weekend is here. We've got 14 weeks ahead of us, basically, of regular season and then the NCAA tournament. So it's going to be a long, fun ride. We would be humbled if you would come join us on this ride. That is going to do it for this Sunday Weekend Waypoints. Thanks for joining me this morning. Enjoy the baseball today, everyone.